The life and sad ending of Hank Williams. Hank Williams was born on September 17, 1923, was born in Butler County, Alabama. His parents were Jessie Lillybelle Lillie and Elonzo Hubble Williams, who was of Welsh, Irish, Scottish, English, French, Swiss and German ancestry. After his return, the family's first child, Ernest Hubble Williams, died shortly after birth. Their daughter Irene was born on August 8, 1922. Their third child, Hiram, was born on September 17, 1923, in Mount Olive. As a child, he was nicknamed Harm by his family and Herky or Poots by his friends. He was born with spina bifida occulta, a birth defect, centered on the spinal column, which gave him lifelong pain, a factor in his later abuse of alcohol and drugs. Born into poor family background, he was forged honesty and honesty. Along with those years, on December 15, 1944, Williams married Audrey Shepard. It was her second marriage and his first. Their son, Randall Hank Williams, who would achieve fame in his own right as Hank Williams Jr. The marriage, always turbulent, rapidly disintegrated. The couple divorced on May 29, 1952. His substance abuse problems continued to spiral out of control as he moved to Nashville and officially divorced his wife. A relationship with a woman named Bobby Jett during this period resulted in a daughter, Jet Williams, who was born 5 days after Williams' death. His mother adopted Jet, who was made a ward of the state and then adopted by another couple after her grandmother died. Jet Williams did not learn that she was Hank Williams' daughter until the early 1980s. On October 18, 1952, Williams and Billie Jean Jones Eschlimaur were married in Minden, Louisiana by a justice of the peace. It was the second marriage for both, each being divorced with children. The next day, 2 public ceremonies were also held at the New Orleans Civic Auditorium, where 14,000 seats were sold for each. After Williams' death, a judge ruled that the wedding was not legal because Jones Eschlimaur's divorce had not become final until 11 days after she married Williams. Williams' first wife, Audrey, and his mother, Lillie Williams, were the driving forces behind having the marriage declared invalid and pursued the matter for years. Williams had also married Audrey Shepard before her divorce was final, on the 10th day of a required 60-day reconciliation period. In July 1937, he won the first prize of $15, singing his first original song WPA Blues. Williams wrote the lyrics and used the tune of Riley Puckett's Dissatisfied. He never learned to read music and, for the rest of his career, based his compositions in storytelling and personal experience. After school and on weekends, Williams sang and played his Silvertone guitar on the sidewalk in front of the WSFA radio studio. His recent win at the Empire Theater and the street performances caught the attention of WSFA producers who occasionally invited him to perform on air. Williams' successful radio show fueled his entry into a music career. His salary was enough for him to start his own band, which he dubbed the Drifting Cowboys. The original members were guitarist Braxton Schufert, fiddler Freddie Beach, and comedian Smith Hezzy Adair. James E. Jimmy Porter was the youngest, being only 13 when he started playing steel guitar for Williams. Arthur Whiting was also a guitarist for the Drifting Cowboys. Williams dropped out of school in October 1939 so that he and the Drifting Cowboys could work full-time. The band started playing in theaters before the start of the movies and later in honky-tonks. Williams' alcohol use started to become a problem during the tours. On occasion, he spent a large part of the show revenues on alcohol. Meanwhile, between tour schedules, Williams returned to Montgomery to host his radio show. He continued to show up for his radio show intoxicated, so in August 1942 the WSFA radio station fired him for habitual drunkenness. In 1945, when he was back in Montgomery, Williams started to perform again for the WSFA radio station. He wrote songs weekly to perform during the shows. As a result of the new variety of his repertoire, Williams published his first songbook, Original Songs of Hank Williams. On September 14, 1946, Williams auditioned for Nashville's Grand Ole Opry but was rejected. After the failure of his audition, Williams and Audrey Shepard attempted to interest the recently formed music publishing firm Acuff Rose Music. The recordings Never Again and Honky Tonkin' became successful, and earned Williams the attention of MGM Records. A major hit for Hank Williams, Lovesick Blues moved him to the mainstream of country music and assured him a position in the Grand Ole Opry. In 1947, Williams signed with MGM Records and released Move It On Over. Considered an early example of rock and roll music, the song became a massive country hit. In 1948, he moved to Shreveport, Louisiana, and he joined the Louisiana Hayride, a radio show broadcast that propelled him into living rooms all over the Southeast, appearing on weekend shows. Williams eventually started to host a show on KWKH and started touring across western Louisiana and eastern Texas, always returning on Saturdays for the weekly broadcast of the Hayride. After a few more moderate hits, in 1949 he released his version of the 1922 Cliff Friend and Irving Mills song Lovesick Blues, made popular by Rex Griffin. Williams' version became a huge country hit. The song stayed at number 1 on the Billboard charts for 4 consecutive months, crossing over to mainstream audiences and gaining Williams a place in the Grand Ole Opry. On June 11, 1949, Williams made his debut at the Grand Ole Opry, where he became the first performer to receive 6 encores. He brought together Bob McNett, Hillis Boutram, Jerry Rivers, and Don Helms to form the most famous version of the Drifting Cowboys, earning an estimated $1,000 per show, equivalent to $10,745 in 2020. That year Audrey Williams gave birth to Randall. In 1950, Williams began recording as Luke the Drifter for his religious-themed recordings, many of which are recitations rather than singing. Concert in 1951. Around this time Williams released more hit songs, such as My Son Calls Another Man Daddy, They'll Never Take Her Love From Me, Why Should We Try Anymore, Nobody's Lonesome For Me, Long Gone Lonesome Blues, Why Don't You Love Me, Moanin' the Blues, and I Just Don't Like This Kind of Living. In 1951, Dear John became a hit, but it was the flip side, Cold, Cold Heart, that became one of his most recognized songs. A pop cover version by Tony Bennett released the same year stayed on the charts for 27 weeks, peaking at number 1. Williams' career reached a peak in the late summer of 1951 with his Hadakol tour of the U.S. with actor Bob Hope and other luminaries. On the weekend after the tour ended, Williams was photographed backstage at the Grand Ole Opry signing a motion picture deal with MGM. In October, Williams recorded a demo, There's a Tear in My Beer, for a friend, Big Bill Lister, who recorded it in the studio. The demo was later overdubbed by his son, Hank Williams Jr. On November 14, 1951, Williams flew to New York with his steel guitar player Don Helms, where he appeared on television for the first time on The Perry Como Show. There he and Perry Como sang Hey Good Lookin'. Photos but no existing footage remain of this appearance. Ramblin' Man was written in 1951 by Williams. It was released as the B-side to the 1953 number 1 hit Take These Chains From My Heart, as well as to the 1976 re-release of Why Don't You Love Me. It is also included on 40 Greatest Hits, a staple of his CD re-released material. In June 1952, he recorded Jambalaya, Window Shopping, Settin' the Woods on Fire, and I'll Never Get Out of This World Alive. On August 11, 1952, Williams was dismissed from the Grand Ole Opry for habitual drunkenness and missing shows. He returned to Shreveport, Louisiana to perform on KWKH and WBAM shows and in the Louisiana Hayride, for which he toured again. During his last recording session on September 23, 1952, Williams recorded Ka-Liga, along with Your Cheatin' Heart, Take These Chains From My Heart, and I Could Never Be Ashamed of You. Due to Williams' excesses, Fred Rose stopped working with him. Hank Williams died January 1, 1953, age 29 in Oak Hill, West Virginia, U.S. The old story about a legend has ended. That is the remnant nostalgia. His departure when he was too young has taken away countless tears of fans. What he has done is not fading. Those things live forever in the hearts of fans.